Here we are today talking with John Reilly, Director of Agronomy at Longboat Key. John, how long have you had the NanoOxygen ultrafine bubble system?
We're going on 2 years and 8 months.
Okay. Prior to having it installed, what your reasons and expectations, and now after having it for 2.5 years, what have you seen that surprised you?
Yeah, we were using another way to inject oxygen, which wasn't super safe. We were putting tanks of oxygen out by our pump house, and we found some benefits from using oxygen and changing the DO in our irrigation water and testing it. So when we were given this approach, we're a well to the main line. We don't have a wet well or a holding pond. We're right on the Gulf of Mexico. We have super salty water. We're basically, we have large columns, multiple pump stations, and a shallow pull point. So if you think about when you go in the water at the beach, you can float because there's all these solids that are at the top of the water. So it was a good idea for an area that didn't want to spend a lot of money pumping, because there's artesian pressure based on the well casings, but there's also a ton of salts in the water, and it made it very hard for people to grow grass there and have a career there. But I've been there for 18 years. It's kind of a meld of what we do to the water and the grass that we use now, which is seashore paspalum. But in reality, paspalum is a soft tissue grass just like anything else. It's a freshwater grass. It's grown in southern Georgia, where the only salt that they have is on the table and the steaks that they're cooking, and that's it. And so when it comes to Florida, it's salt tolerant. But when you put that kind of over and over, like we're in an 80-year drought. So we're using irrigation water every day that we can, and now we're on restriction. So we use it every day we can, and then some if we can get away with it. So being able to treat the water isn't a panacea, but it's an opportunity for us to take that column of water and add dissolved oxygen and keep an idea of what that is and all the other properties that come along with that input. It's a no-brainer, and it's been a little bit of a slower burn for us, but when you take a look back over 2 years, it's been amazing. I mean, there are always places where we have critical points where we can't keep moisture like we can keep moisture somewhere else, and those areas will suffer when we're just using irrigation water. And now, you know, you can walk barefoot, it covers your shoes. I'm a big golfer, so, you know, the golfers love it. We run 2-inch rough when we used to have to run, you know, 1 height of cut just so that people could play golf. So we have a really defined course, and it's not something that I said, oh, I put this in and it made this happen. It's something that I've sort of observed along the way, trying to give us a better mousetrap.
So you're getting a better product, getting more definition on your course, and part of it's because of the oxygenated water.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would love to know how that impacts the soil, because I'm one of those I'm not from Missouri, but you need to sort of show me. So I agree that when I punch a hole or I put a sand cavity in there, I'm creating more movement of water and more opportunity for oxygen to be around the root zone. But I'd love to know what that actually does, and I'm a big metric guy. So someday I think we'll be able to sort of look at that and how it impacts positive plant life and positive soil life. You know, we just assume all our bad soil life comes from an anaerobic condition, a sulfuric condition, a hydronic condition, but we don't always know that. But we can tell good grass from bad grass, and I'm telling you, it's night and day since we've been using oxygen in the water.
Right, golfers certainly think they can tell, and they complain if they don't see it. Your system is strictly a dissolved oxygen system, correct?
It is.
And that's just because of how your irrigation is laid out. You don't have a holding pond. You're doing
right.
well.
I think that we're open to it, and we have a good relationship with the homeowners nearby. So we also were able to help them get a system for their homes, and they went to ozone. So we're trying to see it. They have the bryozoa issue, or the bacterial issue that clogs the small heads.
Yes.
We probably have that too, but we have big heads and high pressure, so it's not as big an issue for us. But if we could see that kind of be reduced in the residential setting, then obviously we'll be on board. But we get to check it. We get to look at the monitoring. You can see the ORD move. You can see all the numbers go in one direction once you start irrigation. It's pretty impressive, and for a metric guy like myself in the industry, that's the kind of stuff that I think is tangible and relatable to any condition, whether you're on the coast in the paradise that we're in, or you're in the middle of this beautiful golf course here at Lake Nona. I mean, these are two places that can benefit from dissolved oxygen, can benefit from ozone for problems with turf, or getting ahead of problems with turf, and being able to control your pH. I mean, that's what we're trying to do when we spray. When we spray, we have fan tips, we have wind, we have an opportunity once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks for most guys, once a month in our fairways. We're watering way more than that, and if we can buffer the system, create a better mousetrap when we're using our water, then you can see the difference. And that's something that's tangible for me, something I play. You know, there's three things I'm looking for: what's good for the golf course, what's good for the golfer, and what's good for the people who take care of it. And when you work for me and you're at a golf course that, I mean, this weekend I go to Concession to see the senior PGA, and on the billboard is my course at the links with the picture of the Gulf of Mexico behind it. And 17 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to put that if we were having an association for the blind tournament. So it's come a long, long way with the right grass and the right tools and the right people.
Right. And so the NanoOxygen system is one of the right tools in your toolbox. And how many holes at your facility?
We have 45 holes, and it kind of plays like 72 holes. There's a 27-hole golf course that when you start on the blue course, somebody's starting on the red course, which is your 10th hole. So it's a kind of neat place. They're separate. One course is really close to the Gulf of Mexico. That's called the Links course, and the harbor side is by the bay, Sarah Bay. So it's a little sliver of land. I love the fact that it's right on the Gulf of Mexico. There's no hills or gates or anything. You can see the golf course right when you're driving by, and we're super proud of it.
Okay. So I don't know, John, were you paying for your irrigation water, or was it supplied through a well?
No, we have a well, but we have a consumptive use permit. And a couple years ago, we kind of unusually, we got funded for a $500,000 grant to renovate our irrigation system and take some areas of irrigated turf out that wasn't in play. And you know, a place like Longboat Key probably wouldn't get that perk, but it was just the same for anybody else. If you're using well water and you can reduce it by a third, then you can get that price. And now we're not using terrible water. We're using better water than we were before.
And that's due to the system. And do you believe you're using less water, or you're able to manage your water use better?
We also are pretty data driven with that. We use an NDVI system called TurfRad. So if you look out there, the fairway units were just out there. They would have a sensor on the back and would come in, and it links up with our computer, and it tells us what the moisture levels are. It takes 10,000 readings every second. And then on the greens, we use a machine that gives us our salinity index, our volumetric moisture, our heat index, and one other measure, EC. So those are the types of things that drive how we use water. And we are an island for a reason. So if the area we're near gets 60 inches of rain, we get 30. So I wouldn't say we use less water, but I think we use water way better, way more efficiently.
Okay. So if someone was coming to you and said, hey, I've heard about this technology, what would you tell them? What would you say? It's been good for us, it's too early to tell, It's got
No,
promise?
absolutely. I say you got to take a look at this. It's just like anything else. You brought it, tool in the toolbox. But the tool in the toolbox is you don't want to carry around a giant toolbox, right? You want to carry around something you can manage. And this gives you a leg up on managing stuff. And the other part of this is if you look at a lot of things that superintendents, I'm a golf course superintendent, focus on, there are things that we do if you have an agronomic plan, if you have you have a cultural plan. These are timed out applications, and then you've got 90% of everything else happens every day. So if you're not taking care of your mowers with the best grinders and the best machines, and you're not taking care of your water with the best tools, then you've limited your ability to be successful. I mean, we're taking a golf course where 17 years ago people went for their career to go under because they couldn't get another job, and it would be a place that 100 people would apply for, if it opened tomorrow.
So have you gotten any feedback from your board of directors, your members and such?
I just think every year when we do a review, we're a private resort, so we do a review, and most of my, peers in the leadership department don't really like us because we always get very good reviews. We always have because of our work ethic, but I think more and more people talk about the quality of golf course. I mean, we're hosting the Florida Open, both courses for the Florida Open. That wouldn't have happened several years ago because of the quality of the turf on a daily basis, especially in the summer, because we don't do a lot of the things that other people do, because we are able to handle our everyday stuff as good as we can. Mowers, water, staff, that kind of stuff.
So condition-wise, you think some of that's attributable to the oxygenation
Absolutely.
system?
I have a joke where you can call me from the Reilly Bridge and I'll get you out on the golf course. And we have pass-pound greens, and they're greens that nobody really puts in pass-pound greens because they don't really have a great reputation. And I always say, you can call me from the Reilly Bridge, which is 7 minutes from our place, and I'll put you out there. And if you're not playing the best greens, then I'll eat my shoe.
Okay, that's a strong reference right there. So as far as value of the system, what do you see as a main value to a golf course?
Well, water is your lifeblood, right? There's air, water, and nutrients, and it's in that order, right? So you can't control the sun. You have limitations on your water no matter where you are. And if you think about the whole country, the whole world, I mean, there's certainly people who have harder problems than we do. I don't know that anybody has the salt levels that we have, but what's going on out in the desert, or what's going on in the Northwest. These are things that in a lot of ways we have what we have. So if you get a level of control where you can get water closer to what Mother Nature wants for an irrigation cycle, which is rain, then you're probably in a better situation to do well.
Right. Prior to you starting this, do you know your dissolved oxygen number?
Yeah, we were 2% to 4% some other pump stations.
So that water's not of very high quality. What is it now?
It ranges between 17 and 20%.
So it's 8 to 10 times better than the original readings.
Yeah, and look, these are things that we have to meter out, but we also have to recognize that. So when I talk about the soil and wanting to know what that dissolved oxygen does in the soil, how long it lasts, what kind of microbial health it provides, those types of things, I do know this. If I have 16,000 parts per million and I have 2% of dissolved oxygen, and then I add 18%, then I have 18% left dissolved oxygen going out in every drop of water before I use, after I use the system.
Right.
And that's math. That's nothing fancy. That's just straight up math.
But in your determination, what you've actually seen on the course, have you seen a big change in turf conditions?
Yes, and I think it's some of the areas that the grass was a great change. Being able to take out turf that was not necessary to golf and take our consumptive use permit and drive it into the less acres was a big deal. And then this has become the bigger deal. If you had a slope like this that was into the prevailing wind, for the most part, we just had one height of cut. Now we have a defined height of cut everywhere. You can walk off and it'll cover your shoes where it's supposed to cover your shoes. It'll be tight and healthy. And the other big thing for us is paspalum. All grasses have their positives and their negative. Paspalum suffers from dollar spot and patch disease, and you have to preventatively spray for it because it doesn't heal like Bermuda grass does. So we have a lot less, we always have the disease pressure, but we have a lot less symptoms and signs. So we use a lot less inputs, which again, if you start to run the dominoes there, then you're thinking, well, we have a lot more balance. You know, someone asked me, hey, what's your nematode pressure like out there, John? And we have nematode pressure just like the rest of the people, but it's between you and I, not an entire golf green or an entire fairway or that kind of stuff. So those things are limited by good cultural practices, good management, timely inputs, and good water management.
Right. Because water, if I'm not mistaken, is the largest input on any golf course.
And it's there every day.
So why not use the best possible?
I mean, they're out back syringing greens on a target driving range. I mean, that's the intensity with which we manage turf. And you ought to give your club and yourself the best opportunity to do it right. And, you know, I could tell you a million things, but you got to start with the biggies. And I'd say we can't control the sun, so water's the next place to start.
Right. Now, can you contribute any monetary savings yet to your system in your budgeting?
I'd say we have had a windfall of membership. And so I would look at it the other way, which is
Value.
I think if you really look at the Longboat Key Club, it's probably sneaky the largest ROI golf course in the world. And it's because there's 4,000 members paying $212,000 to join. And I don't know anybody else that collects that kind of money in August.
Right.
And that didn't happen when I got there. It was $12,000 and they were grabbing people's kneecaps before they drove off the island to play somewhere else.
Begging them to, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the course has turned around quite a bit. And some of that turnaround is attributed to possibly the oxygenation system.
Well, I think it was a crowning jewel for us. And, you know, if you talk about or listen to the guys that have come before me, they think this, you know, we're just scratching the surface. So I'm all in. Like if there's some stuff we can do that makes this better, or we could figure out a way to get through this drought a lot better by maximizing oxygen in the root zone, then let's do it. And let's measure it. That's the thing that's going to be kind of important to me.
Right. Have you been using the Sensiphone system to collect data?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Are you just monitoring?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But we, you know, and then we also use another in-ground sensor for oxygen, but it starts at 14%. So we can't even, you know, barely get that out of the water. So
Right.
it doesn't really read well for us when we look it up. So, and I just want to be able to see it and then see what the turf health is. We do some monitoring of our organic matter. We're not a very culturally aggressive turf group. So we look at our organic matter, our perk rate, and our root mass every year before the growing season, which would be now, and then after the growing season going into the golf season. And we're looking to, you know, give us the best opportunity to make it all the way through the golf season.
Right. With that being said, in your root depth and root mass now, with the 2 years you've had this system, have you seen an increase in those numbers? Have you compared them?
Everything's been really good. We actually increased organic matter too. Last year and every other year, we have the state championship for the Golf Course Superintendents Association in Florida. And last year, I bought all my sand for my cultural practices, and it was coming up on the event. And I just went out on the greens like this, and I said, how are we going to get any better? And we didn't do anything. And then we did our test, and we went up 12% in organic matter. And not to throw everybody out on their, you know, turn everything upside down, we had the best season we've ever had. So what's going on there? I'd love to know, you know, personally, what's going on oxygen-wise using this system in the soil compared to some place that doesn't use it.
But it can possibly be attributed to that.
Right. Like if you could physically irrigate, you know, I think talking about approaching rainwater is a good way to do it. But if you were able to really say, we create enough oxygen in the system that you already have that you don't need to do these practices. I play golf. Nobody wants to disturb 2% of their green, which ruins the whole green, you know,
Right.
when you're doing an aerification. So if you could take one of those out. Nobody comes out to you when you're doing what we do and says, John, you're not aerifying, you know, we should open the golf course. They let you do what you need to do as long as you provide the product. So a lot of times as superintendents, we're like a big giant ship. It's hard for us to get turned around.
Turn it around. Yeah. Okay. So, John, in your determination, this is leading edge technology, and it's got to be the future, correct?
If I have it, it's leading edge technology. Okay. I can tell you that right
Okay.
No, these are the things that I think if you really look at superintendents, we've all kind of cut our teeth on doing the right thing at the right time with the right tool. And you got to look at it at least, right? And then you can make the decision for yourself. I've had really good superintendents call me and say, this is what I got to do, right? And I say yes. And then really good guys that get hung up on the price or whatever that is. And a lot of times when I'm talking to an owner, that's who I have to get approval from. Then they give me a hard time about a price. Well, I didn't make the price, nor does that really matter to the end game of what we're trying to accomplish, which is sustainability, not using other things. I mean, you can get to wherever you need to go some other way. Chemicals, if I'm not using the chemistry, there's a lot of inherent benefits from this. And there's not a superintendent out there that wants to beat their place up, wants to over-fertilize it, wants to over-regulate it, wants to over-chemistry it. It's not out there. We're built a certain way. You just need to get the message out. And you can call me. I'll answer the phone.
Right. And they certainly don't want to overwater.
We don't want to.
Right. We don't
I mean, the golfer doesn't want it either. Anything that goes splat, we don't want any part of that.
Right.
Fast and firm and have fun. Make some putts.
So if a golf course came to you that's looking at possibly installing this system, you would recommend it or not?
Yes, but I would say do your due diligence, you know, have some questions, ask those questions. Don't get caught up in the fancy words. When I first started talking about this and doing it, I was all in. And so sometimes people think, well, you're all in, then you're all in on all of it. But someone will call me up and say, hey, I heard this does this. And it does what it does. It treats the water. It creates oxygen bubbles in the water that are measurable, and it changes the stuff. Now, down the line, that doesn't mean it gives you, you know, better turf, less disease, firmer greens, less time to water. Those are things as a superintendent you've got to move the whole ship in that direction.
Right.
So it is a tool in the toolbox. It certainly should be looked at. If you're not looking at it, I don't know that you're giving your club the best opportunity. But at the same time, if you look at it and you see something different than I do, then you know you did your due diligence. But don't be afraid of the price. Don't be afraid of being different. A lot of times we do what the guy down the street does, and that keeps us happy and healthy. But you know, sometimes the bigger picture is something, you know, we got to buy into. It's not always safe, but you're getting better water. I don't know how this is a hard thing,
Right.
really.
Right. Sometimes you got to be a trailblazer.
Whatever. But I think that I don't think you get in our profession without saying that. I mean, you've done it, right?
Yep.
So you don't take over the care of 100 and however many acres and say, you know, I'm going to be safe.
Right. Right. One more
And
question.
I don't think this is an unsafe practice. I think this is an opportunity to make your water better. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Right. So you've had the system for roughly 2 years. I want to get back to the quality of the system, reliability. Has it been pretty good for you? And
It's a tough environment for us.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a salt environment, so sensors need to be cleaned. Water's coming at you in high solids, so we're just as culpable. You know, it was built to succeed, and there have been some adjustments, but that's the thing that I think separates me. I don't think everything has to be perfect. I think a group that's willing to work with you, hear what you have to say, and get it right, and not be afraid to fail is way better. I mean, there's all kinds of technology out there that people just shun, you know. if the robot gets stuck, then they're not going to use any mowing robots. I mean, these are, if we don't use this kind of stuff, then we don't get better at it. So
Would you say that's how NanoOxygen is, though?
yeah, they're responsive. I mean,
They're willing to
Ralph will
listen?
call me up and say, "Hey, have you cleaned your sensors? Because we're not getting to really good numbers." And 9 times out of 10, that's on us.
Right.
So and we're like super into metrics, so you would think we would keep up with that better.
But the system's been reliable.
Yeah,
And they've
in
been
a
willing to work
caustic
with
environment.
you. Right.
And not a fancy pump station. We're sort of no bells and whistles when it comes to that kind of stuff, just because of the way it's built. There's 8 different pump stations, so there's a lot going on from an irrigation standpoint.
Right.
There's open delta power. There's all kinds of challenges with what we do, and to be able to know that when we are irrigating correctly, we're also treating the water to benefit our turf and our golfers and the people that take care of it.
Okay.
No brainer.
Ralph, you got anything else?
Can you touch a little bit on the ozone system that you and Ron have been playing with for algae and bunkers?
Yeah, I get a chance because I'm old and I'm still standing. I get a chance sometime to consult. And nowadays we're spending more money on bunker construction than we are on golf greens. And sort of this quasi dirty little secret that comes along with that is that during the summertime, when we have 99% humidity, we can have some algae kind of surface on the top. And most clubs just say, well, the sand's gonna be a little green during the summer, or even a little black where we were working when we first started it. So we created ozone in a water tank, took it out, sprayed it, and got some residual health from that too. It wasn't instant. It wasn't like we painted it white, but over time it broke down the bacteria or the algae, and the surface that was really black did really well, and the green algae I think still holds a little water. So I think there's a lot to do with maybe how many times we treat it. The other issue is you have to be able to do this, right? So right now it's a little bit cumbersome, but I think the more we go after it, the more we show results, the more we deal with the tweaking of the process. I think this could be a game changer for people who don't want their bunkers to wash out and have high face bunkers, and don't want to say, oh, it's okay if it's a little green when I take my shot out of the bunker. And it's a white sand you pay for. And I think it's, again, part and parcel of this group, right? What goes on is this. The concrete guys say it's the sand guy, and the sand guy says it's the concrete guy. And the concrete guy is putting vaults in the bottom of the concrete. So what's going on? And the sand guy says the sand has to be this deep. And again, money, money, money. No one coming up with an answer. And for Ron and the group here to say, hey, John, what do you think this should do? And then work with me to work with the company that I was working for and get it out there in a week, So that's the kind of stuff that means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to my peers.